Okay, this will be the last tutorial for the rigging setup. We're going to be actually skinning in this tutorial. So anyway, start with unfreezing your mesh, your model, and go to the modifier panel and go to the modifier list and choose skin. Okay. Now we want to add bones, or all the bones in our list except for the do not add. So, or do not use. I'm going to click add, and it should pop open a list of everything in my scene. And this is the list. Alright, I don't need geometry, I don't need shapes, I don't need lights, cameras, helpers, space warps, display groups, X reference, or display controllers. All I need is the bones. So this tool activated here, display bones. And pretty much I'm just going to go through and select the bones I have in the list. So let's see here. Just go through and select everything but the do not use. Just like that. Select. Okay, it adds it to the modifier. I'm going to go ahead and start with Spino 1. You can either select it in the list here or actually come in, and if I change this mode over to bones, I can select the bone here, but I want to keep the geometry selected. So Spino 1 and go edit envelopes. And here's the magnetic cage that the bone creates around it. You can see how it grabs the vertices. Red is absolutely grabbed and feathering off to blue, which is barely grabbed at all, to not colored whatsoever. So basically I can go through and click these little individual joints in here, these little gray lines, and you can see what patterns I'm getting for my the actual vertices. So now if I turn this off, I can actually go to my primary controller, move it, and the whole object, everything should move with it, including the mesh. Voila. Now I haven't finished the other side, so I got a bunch of helpers floating around, but if I grab my arm and move it down, the mesh should follow, and it did not. Why did it not? Edit envelopes. Do I not have that arm set up? Add. Don't want any of these. Just the bones. Huh, for some reason I didn't grab all my right arm. There we go, select. Okay, so now if I come in here, they are being used. Turn off skin, grab the arm, and voila. You'll notice, let me select the cage again, Alt exit. The mesh bends and morphs depending on the shape. Okay, so first off, I like to take the bones and either hide them or Alt X them to make them see through. And you can do this easily by selecting bone mode. That way it just selects the bones and Alt X all together. Go back to all. Alright, let's go up to edit envelopes again. And you can see how it's grabbing again the cage. So I'm going to turn this off. So basically the proper form of skinning is you want to animate the character or animate your primary controller. So I'm going to turn on auto key, set my first keyframe, go to frame, it doesn't matter, let's say 15. I'm going to bend the arm all the way down, and I'm going to move the elbow joint back out, and move this down. So I'm creating a bent angle for this position here, or the last position all the way down. So this will give me the capabilities of fixing how this is being controlled by the bones. So I'm going to turn off auto key, select the mesh again, and go edit envelopes, scroll through my time slider, and this will allow me, okay, so I see the deformation. I'm going to turn on vertices, select the arm. And maybe I don't want this really in particular being controlled, any of these vertices here being controlled by the arm that much. And there's a lot of ways to change the weights of these vertices, but primarily what I like to use, because I'm more of an old school setup, is the weight table, and that's this window here. And what I'll do is I'll switch this to selected vertices. Okay, and these are spine 1, spine 2 is being controlled. Go all the way over. The highlight is the arm controller, and that's what I want to focus on, how much the arm is controlling these. So you can either click and drag these down, and the best way to again play with this is to take the animation timing. So I'm going to undo the amount, go all the way to 15, and see what happens when I increase and decrease the amount that the vertex is being controlled. So I can decrease all these to get more of a stable effect. Okay. Maybe I want it to be controlled a little bit more than that in some areas. Maybe less than others. Okay. So that's how I can go through and play with the vertices. I can come in clavicle. These areas up here, I don't want them to be pulled down by the arm so much. Come in here and select them. And let's see here. I've got all these selected. Make sure okay. So let's go ahead and play the animation through again and increase the value of control, because I don't want it to be bent so much. So maybe even a little bit more. Okay, so that's better than it was before. And I'll basically keep going through and tweaking every single one of these vertices. Well, not every single one of them, but tweaking the ones I need to for the control factor. So let's see, let's go to here, and maybe I want these to be less controlled. Something like that. And maybe these I want to be more controlled by the clavicle. Now mind you, I'm playing with a low poly setup right now, so if I click this to deactivate the edit envelopes, close this, and I add a turbo smooth, I get a nice curvature for the actual final setup for the model. So just keep that in mind. And you can add the turbo smooth if you wish. I, in particular, do not like working with it. The fewer vertices I have to work with, the better, in my opinion, for skinning. Basically, I would just come through and continue on playing with the values. Again, go to my weight table and adjust how the vertices are being controlled. Okay. And that's pretty much how exactly I would do it for each joint. I would animate the joint. Close this out now. There's turn off skin. Select the so instead of going down, I can go up and see what it looks like, and kind of like the way it deforms up. That's fine. I need to make sure you turn on auto key before you move it up. That was my mistake I just made. So you can test the animation, see how it deforms. Alright, same thing with the hand situation, is I would animate it and go ahead and delete the animation. Go to frame 0, delete this animation since I'm done with the up and down. I can go to the hand and animate it. Whoops, need to delete my elbow animation. Select the hand. There we go. And I can animate it doing up or down and also twisting. And the reason why I say twisting, let's deal with the twisting. So let's go there. See how ununiform this is, kind of concaving his wrist. So the twist factor will happen beyond that point. So let's go back to turn off auto key, back to the skin, weight table, and let's grab, let's see, I need to activate edit envelopes, select the hand, go to the weight table, grab some extra vertices, and maybe increase the amount of control. Let's go ahead and twist this to see what happens. Oops. Let's increase the amount of control for the hand. And you do have to pay attention to what you're doing, which control factor you're giving to what. So it creates a nice twist, and of course I would go to the last here and probably put in point and type in specific numbers and copy that. But you do have to hit enter after you copy it. So maybe a little bit more. Let's try 0.1. That's one way you can control the twist factor, the forearm. And that pretty much really the whole design, or the way that you animate or set up the skinning for the character is that. Now there's lots of options. Let me go ahead and animate this coming in because we didn't do the elbow. Auto key. Set a keyframe, go to frame 15, bend it in. Maybe even bring it down and bend it up. Move the elbow out. And the arm forward. Okay. Bring the arm in. Alright, so this is a big area that needs to be really messed with. Usually these are your problematic joints: shoulders, elbows, hips, and knees. They'll be the most frustrating to edit and clean up. Which is a very time-consuming process, and usually why one person's dedicated just to doing this for most studios. Again, activate your weight table, selected vertices, and go through and whatever selected vertices you want to manipulate or mess with, and see what kind of manipulation is going to help or not help. That is what you're going to go through and do. Now, just kind of go through some of this information. You can exclude certain vertices. So let's say I selected the leg, and this leg is partly grabbing like it is these vertices on this side. Select these vertices and exclude. So it's not grabbing them anymore because there's no necessity for these bones to be grabbing the opposite side like that. You can check. It's really useful for areas like the fingers. Fingers like to easily grab multiple vertices, exclude, and that will prevent that type of information from happening. Very easy process. You can include, you can select excluded vertices, you can bake selection vertices. Mirror mode is pretty much where once you're done with one side, so let's say I'm completely happy with this, I can turn on mirror mode, and one side should be green and the other side should be blue, and I can paste green to blue bones and paste green to blue vertices, so it's basically copying the one side over the blue side. So the deformation that I created on one side should affect the other side as well. Now, does that work all the time? No, but sometimes it does work and it is useful. And turn that off. Let's see, you also got, let's see, mirror mode, display options, advanced parameters. This is with the vertices and rigging and whatnot. And you also got gizmos that you can add for joint modifiers, and this will help you also with your, if you can't get the joint correctly corrected with via just the weights, you can add a modifier for a specific joint angle, and that will help. Like, you can actually move the vertices by hand like you're modeling it. Let's see, there should be also paint weights. This is where it allows you a brush to paint specific weights on vertices, just like this. I'm not a fan of the paint weights option, but it does exist. And then, of course, you got the tools for the paintbrush right here, and a whole new window in itself. Pretty much, I believe that covers the weights option. So once you're done, you should be getting a setup to where your character should be able to flex and move. Obviously, my head should not be grabbing vertices down here, and I'm willing to bet if I go edit envelopes, the head is just grabbing all this down here, which it doesn't need to be. So I can select all this and say exclude selected vertices. And now it might get deformed like this. Don't worry, just click on another bone and it will fix itself. So now I turn this off, come in here, and then I would have to play with how the neck is grabbing vertices. So, anywho, that is the basic to skinning a character, getting your bones to control the mesh. And I hope you enjoy this tutorial, and I will see you guys in another one.